Alright, so we're getting ready to start our ball bounce animation. And first you have to download the ball bounce start file, which will look something like this. You'll notice I'm in the front view. And I'm just going to go in, never mind all of these little windows. And I'm going to go and just make sure that my settings are correct. Looks good, good. Make sure your undos are set to infinite, because we will want to undo stuff at different times. And I've got my tangents to linear right now under the animation settings. So, a few things. One, if you're on a PC, it's Alt. If you're on a Mac, it's Option. But Option or Alt-B cycles the background. So I'm just going to switch this to a black background to make life a little bit easier for the moment, so it's easier to see. And I'm going to hold down the space bar, go click on Maya to go to perspective view. And what I want to do is I want to just set up some quick lights so I can see this. So I'm going to hold down the space bar, create lights, ambient light. You notice nothing happens because I have to press 7 for me to be able to see those. And there's my ambient light right there. Okay. The ambient light you typically don't use except for this hardware render, which I'm going to do later on for a play blast, which you'll see. And I'm going to make this one a slightly bluish color just to cool it off a little bit and lower the intensity. I also want to create a directional light, and this one's going to be important when we render it out. So you remember this guy, it's like an everywhere light, the sunlight, and I'm going to rotate this so it's kind of like this. And the reason being, let me do a few things so you'll see why. What I want to do is have that set up. So I have my ambient, lowered it, I have my directional light, and I kind of scaled it up, which doesn't affect the light, rotating it does. And under lighting, I'm going to say turn on shadows, so we can see shadows here. And this is so I can increase this up a little bit so that when my ball is actually bouncing, I'm going to be able to see some shadows for it and stuff. But right now you see it's kind of really wonky. So we're going to do a couple of things to fix that. I'm going to go to Render, Viewport 2.0. And that looks better already. Look, the shadows are much cleaner now. If I select this directional light, I can even tint the color of the shadows themselves. See? So it's not quite as strong. And I could make this, bring this back to a white, and then just make this warm. This is the directional light. And I'm just going to pull it over so it's a little bit warmer. And then I can make the shadow itself a little blue. And this is all, see that? So the idea is I want to position this just so that when my ball is like bouncing and moving, that I can actually, when I see it, I'll be able to see it hitting the ground so it's not apparently floating, because that's the only way that we start to see how stuff actually is. Okay. And I'm just going to do a quick tweak to this. Grab the vertices and pull that back. So if you have a bowling ball, you can have a little more space. And I'll just save that. So, the only other thing before we get started is you decide which ball you're going to animate first. choose where its starting point is, and before you do that, duplicate this ball a few times, because remember, in this one we're not supposed to show, don't change the color, don't change the scale, we're only supposed to be able to see if it's a bowling ball, a ping pong ball, or a beach ball based off of how it's moving, not based off of, oh, the ping pong ball is white and the bowling ball is black, and you know the beach ball has multiple colors and it's bigger than all of them. We want to just be able to see it that way. Okay, let's turn that down just a little bit more. There we go, so we can actually see that a little bit better. Just remember, if your screen is going black and acting wonky, to make sure to not have the anti-aliasing turned on these machines. If you're at home, it'll make it look better. On the machines in the classroom right now, not so much. And you can turn on ambient occlusion. It may slow it down a little bit, but you see it makes it look a lot nicer with contrast. But it just depends on the performance hit you get. And that is, once again, under the Render Viewport 2.0 settings to change those. Then I would just hit spacebar, hold it down, go to front view, choose which ball I want to start animating. And you know what, I'm going to do one more thing so you can see it a little bit easier. I'm going to take you down. I'm going to extrude that and just pull it up a little bit. So now when you're in a front view, and I'll save this one out, you'll be able to see where the floor is when you're actually animating. So that when you actually go and the ball is going, you know, boop, 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 and going down, and yeah, you have to make those sounds too, that you'll be able to hit it so it actually, oh, it's rolling across the ground, or it's bouncing across the ground, whichever one of those you're going to do. So, and we can even move these lights now out of the way. I'll do that. Kind of pull them up, and that's good. And go back to the front view, and then we're ready to get started.